a joy again to help you, to work with you, to encourage you, to guide you, to challenge you, to care for you in your recovery journey. And I just am reminded again that here, even on this call, as it's being recorded, there's 25 plus people here saying, I want to get this right. I want to keep growing. And so I'm just so honored to be here and proud of your decision to be on board in this recovery journey. Yeah, God bless you. Um, this particular talk, at least 3/4 of a year, if not longer, I've been building this talk because as I've worked with couples, uh, 85% of the couples that I work with, and remember, there's a lot of couples I work with who don't have the sexual addiction problem in the marriage with the husband usually. They don't have that, but uh, there's still 85% to 90% of the couples I work with have struggles in the bedroom. Very rarely is there marital struggles, but there not being struggles in the bedroom as well. And so for a long time, as I've talked to couples about the challenges in their relationship sexually, uh, I realized that there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of un unresolved and undealt with travesty in their past. Of course, in this particular discussion, a lot of it has to do with the porn addiction. But what's happened is people don't understand the difference between having sex and making love. They really don't. And because they've been educated, many, by the porn world, they've assumed as they brought that into their head and heart and their practice that that's what good sex is. And so this talk today is thorough, okay, like flipping thorough, because I will be using this handout that you're holding. I'll be using this to hand out to couples to work through and talk through to try to reboot their sexual intimacy in a healthy way. And so the discussion is about having sex versus making love and helping you know and experience the difference. You see, our culture has really been on a drift for some time in a dark way, advancing sexual freedoms, as they would say. But crazy taglines like, if it feels good, do it. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What she doesn't know doesn't hurt her, all tend to point to one thing. And it points to this uh, that personal sexual gratification, my thrill, my joy, is king. What's happened over time is sex is no longer about two people. In practice, it's more about one. And this on-demand sex, focusing merely on the rush and release of the sexual orgasm, whether it's in person or online, has created a marital sexual vacuum, leading couples miles away from each other and miles away from the physical intimacy that brings genuine human closeness. And with the proliferation, lots of it, ubiquity, which is it's simultaneously everywhere. So with the proliferation and ubiquity of the pornographic exposure, what happens is sexuality is a dumbed down experience, a derivative of simply body to body pleasure seeking encounters. Not at all as God intended. So the difference between having sex and making love is what I'm trying to explain in this particular talk. Remember, though it is true, over and over again, you've got to come back to this, that God created sex and he wants your sex life and marriage to be awesome. He didn't create it to be problematic. He created it to be good, but there is a way that it's done and we have to find our way to that. But the sex life as God created and envisioned has been wildly hijacked. It's been sabotaged by this selfish kind of sex that isn't lovemaking it at all. No, it's about bringing my own sexual self gratification. It's not about bringing greater human connection and becoming close to my spouse. And the whole thing has become me centered. And many marriages lose the sense of personhood and closeness because often with the porn driven type of sex, the spouse is objectified, they're depersonalized, it's minimized, and we just have to get our hit. We have to get our sexual hit. We have to get our dopamine hit. And so what happens, even as the depth of the porn addiction has grown, not only do you have the neurological pathways that push you towards this self-centered, what I need, what I want type of sex, because it is with porn, it is on demand, it is my flavor because you pick what you want. And so what happens is as that continues, the person, your spouse, is not seen at all. Matter of fact, very little is left to the imagination of the person making love because they've seen it all, so there's no room to even be creative. And as they've watched more and more hours of porn, they've watched many deeper levels of explicit and degrading sexual variation and even exploitation. And sadly, few moral boundaries are left. And often the wife feels pushed. They don't feel loved, they feel used. I can't tell you how many times in my counseling, wives will say that the wife, she cries herself to sleep after having sex with her lover. Yeah, right. Why? Because it's all about him. So the PMO cycle has created these massive expectations that put pressure on the marriage. And the weird thing about this is the person who's grown up so addicted to porn, or their whole growing awareness of sexual intimacy has been the teen years and early 20s, and it's been laced with pornographic images, and they are unaware that the kind of sex that they're pushing for, as reflected by the porn, is not lovemaking. They feel that they're having sex in a good and healthy way. They are not, but they don't know it because this has become their norm as they watch the porn. And sadly, the porn addiction has shaped their sexual appetite and their sexual patterns. And they bring those expectations into the bedroom. And oh my goodness, the challenges. And their brain has been so accustomed to sex that is all about me, because when you do the PMO cycle, it is all about you, your time, your joy. You don't have to work to help anybody. Good lovemaking is selfless. Having sex is meanness. So these individuals who've had this struggle have to learn how to make love because sadly, they do not know how to make love. They don't. An amazing story of a couple that I've worked with. Their names are obviously left off to uh, protect them. At the same time, if I gave their names, this is a powerful story of beautiful recovery. So all they would do would be lifted up in your eyes. But I tell you this story because there was a couple that he had a long-standing struggle with porn. And he would have, seasons of victory, like 2 months, 3 months. Then he'd have a binge for a week or two, and his wife would catch him, and then she would be traumatized again. And what's wrong with me? And he said, oh, nothing. But then he would go back to porn, and then it just created this unhealthy pattern. And she was getting hurt, and she was frustrated by it. And maybe you should live elsewhere until you decide that you really want me, not all your crap. And so and by the way, the guy graduated out of this program some years ago with full-on victory, and grateful to see that. But he got tired. He got tired of hurting his wife. And so he went into a recovery journey with the counseling and with the recovery group, with doing the program, doing the books, doing the work, doing it all. And God's done a great work in him. And this is an amazing story of full-on recovery, full-on freedom, just a really, really good story. And she was able to work through the trauma of all the different betrayals along the way. So they're on a good trajectory. And then in the middle of this, the wife reaches out to me and asks for a session by herself. Okay, what's up? She says, I'm just really confused. We're doing better, and he's clean, and the recovery is going great. I love him. He loves me. But after we've had a time of lovemaking, he starts to cry. And she says, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. We're done having this great time, and he's crying. So what happens is they really began to understand what lovemaking is, not just having sex. And this unbelievable, powerful discovery took their intimacy to a whole new level of closeness, real, spiritual, emotional, and sexual intimacy. And when this guy's focus went from being this self-centered, porn-driven Russian release experience to a mutually meaningful, intimate, passionate interchange, and he was present with his wife. He felt a level of closeness he didn't know existed. It was so different and so powerful. All he knew that she was no longer a tool to use, a toy to play with, a mere object of his pleasure. He was fully present. He now wanted to love her, to be with her, to look into her eyes, and he was close to her, and afterwards even more close, and he felt so different that he sobbed with joy. I told her, I said, based on our discussion here, and he confirmed it when we talked later, I told her, let him cry and just hold him, because he discovered what God intended. So understand that within marriage, should there be sexual passion? Yes. Powerful attraction? Yes. Genuine connection? Yes. Growing closeness? Yes. Complete intimacy as God intended? Totally. That's the plan. So now feel the contrast as I've just thrown some words back to back on the difference between having sex and making love. So you'll get the direction, you'll get the feel. So having sex, selfish. Making love, mutual. Having sex, getting. Making love, giving. Having sex, self-centered versus us-centered. Having sex, the partner is objectified. Making love, the partner is validated. Having sex, one is satisfied. Making love, both are satisfied. Having sex, sex is compartmentalized. It's just here in the bedroom in this moment. No, making love is integrated. It's integrated. That means it includes the whole day experience, and it's me and you. Having sex, the focus is on sexual release. Making love, the focus is on loving connection. Having sex is about sexual frustration when we don't get what we want, and silence. versus making love is having open conversations. One of my joys as I'm moving into a transition period in my life is I'm going to put together a video series, 10 to 15 10-minute videos, lessons on adult conversations about making love. Because people are not talking about this. They don't talk. I asked, have you guys talked about that before? No. Have you talked about that before? No. Have you talked about that before? No. That is really common. So making love is going to have open sexual conversations. Having sex, the attitude is demanding. Making love, the attitude is sharing. Having sex results in isolating spouses versus bonding spouses. Having sex, it's the rush and release is targeted. Mutual fulfillment is targeted with making love. Having sex, the person is in their head. They're preoccupied with their own space. But making love, you're in the moment. You're aware and engaged with your spouse. Having sex is fixated on self. Making love is fully present with your spouse. Having sex is targeting my sex needs. Making love is targeting mutuality. Having sex often creates distance. Making love clearly brings you closer. Having sex is intense sexual passion. Making love is intense sexual passion, but much more. And I don't know if you understand the chemical cocktail with an orgasm. The endorphins, the enkephalins, most of us know the word dopamine. That means that feels really good. Do that again. That's the addictive one. But we underestimate the power of oxytocin, which is released a little bit after the initial explosion. And it's designed to bring a sense of closeness, bring a sense of love. But when it's all about sex, the oxytocin it's because I'm not close to that person that I just had sex with. I just got my rush and release, my hit. And we miss the value of oxytocin, which actually, listen, is a feeling of closeness. If you are focused on them and really making love, you will feel what the guy felt in the illustration and why he cried. He'd never felt that before. He didn't know it existed. Wow. Now, this is where if you can blame me about anything, you can blame me for being thorough. I'm thorough. I wrote this to help couples get beyond the habit of just having sex and move in the direction of making love. So I have a pretty long list of steps to overcome just having sex, and then the steps of what it's going to take to really, improve on your lovemaking. And so I'm just going to refer to these. They're in detail with complete explanation, 3 or 4 lines under each point. But here are the things that you need to do to move beyond just having sex. All right. So abuse recovery. If there was any sexual abuse in your childhood, you got to get beyond that because that certainly skews your sexual experience. And there's a lot of hurt associated. So there needs to be a willingness to work through any sexual abuse you went to, age 16 and under, often under age 10. Secondly, sexual ghosts. This is you've got a lot of experiences, sometimes bad memories and poor choices before you were married. Other people you were involved with, people that you were opportunistic with. And these sexual ghosts often come back to haunt you. And so we need to work those through in a healthy way to put them behind us. Don't let the dark days of a poor season in your marriage, don't let the dark days define you. Thirdly, like the guy did in the illustration, he tackled the porn grip. You got to break the porn cycle. You got to defeat the PMO cycle because you cannot be close to your spouse if you're continuing to go to porn as a default drive. So tackle the porn. Number 4, face the hurts. There have been negative, unhealthy sexual experiences between you and your spouse, where you likely have objectified her, where you've caused a lot of hurt and literally pushed them away while you're trying to bring them close. You may need to apologize, clean things up emotionally and spiritually, talk through things. Maybe you need to talk through with a counselor. Uh, Fifthly, you got to establish freedom. You got to go to God where you know that you've made mistakes, and don't let shame and guilt rule. Confess your feelings to the Lord, a godly friend or mentor, your spouse, so that you can regain mental and spiritual freedom, but establish freedom before the Lord. Sixthly, you got to address disconnection. What has happened? Self-centered having sex has created gaps emotionally, and there's been a lack of warmth and a lack of connection and a lack of friendship, and the sexual push did not create oneness, it created separation. And so, yeah, we got to address the disconnection, start to rebuild. And we got to confront heaviness, number 7. We got to work through any negative overtones of your past sex life, beyond just rebuilding the friendship. Because if there's been obligation sex, or people have been avoiding sex, or pressuring for sex, or complaining about sex, there's a heaviness related to it. And so you got to face this baggage, and accept that there may be some healthy boundaries so your spouse can feel safe for a while, because we're targeting mutuality in our lovemaking, period. Correct unkindness. I put this in here because I can't believe how many times there's been such an array of harsh things said or implied, comparisons, evaluations, cruel words that have driven a wedge between the two of you. If you say those kind of things, how can you ever expect your spouse to want to be close to you? And so, you haven't been, aware of their sexual needs and preferences. Your impatience has ruled, and sadly, you've said some unkind things that you need to make amends for. Relational growth. Now, we talked about addressing the reconnection, but this now is saying, I want to be your friend outside the bedroom. I want us to, we got married because we were in love, and I want my spouse to be more than just something I'm attracted to inside the bedroom. There needs to be this growing friendship outside the bedroom that will create a healthy way forward. Number 10, you got to pursue holistic unity. While in the past, sex has been largely a physiological experience with a self-centered focus, mutuality has not been on the menu. Unity hasn't been achieved. This kind of sex doesn't bring closeness. Now we're saying holistic, comprehensive unity. That it is both of us. It is not me-centered, it is us-centered, and we're looking for this unifying thing. Number 11, on how to move beyond having sex, you got to break the silence. Admit that you don't talk about your sex life. There's been little communication or discussion about needs and problems and preferences and frustrations, and you need to schedule your first talk and discuss barriers to your journey toward lovemaking. And finally, and kind of implied earlier, but you got to change one-sidedness. Too often, having sex tends to be a male-centric act with too little focus on affection and foreplay, with the primary target only being intercourse. Sexual intimacy needs to be a two-person focus, with other-centeredness clearly central. Change the one-sidedness. Now, the steps to improve your lovemaking. So first of all, see how holistic the direction is we're wanting to go, because you got to appreciate the 4 dimensions of making love. Discuss each of these, what it means to you, score yourselves on how well you're doing, kind of like out of 10. But relational companionship. You say, well, aren't you talking about making love? Duh! Making love is much more comprehensive. So, relational companionship, emotional connection, spiritual closeness, and sexual celebration. Have a discussion about those four with your spouse. Secondly, we got to rewire after porn. So as we've said, sexual addiction has massively hijacked marital intimacy. You got to make a commitment to do whatever it takes to put porn behind you and rewire to other-centered sexual connection. Put porn behind you. It doesn't make you into a better lover. It makes you more selfish. Build friendship. Go on a journey on growing warmth and relational connection. Create some more us time. Don't allow compartmentalized thinking that, well, we're good now, so the bedroom will be good. No, it has to be holistic, especially for the woman. You know, what happens in the morning, what happens at dinner affects what happens in the bedroom later. So you can't be trashing them verbally and then expect, hey, let's have sex tonight. No. Now, matter of fact, I wouldn't use those words anymore. Let's make love, at least. Rebuild slowly. You're going to have to be patient with the sexual rebuild. Yeah, there's many sexual interaction patterns that will need to change, and you're going to have to go on a journey to discover what a level of sexual closeness looks and feel like. Number 5, you got to educate yourselves. To be very fair, I can't believe how dumb. I know you don't like being insulted, but I really can't believe how dumb people are when it comes to sexual closeness. Uneducated men and women make lousy lovers. And understanding how sex really operates and I mean, like this. And just to be fair, when I was doing my master's in counseling and I was doing a course on human sexuality and how to counsel through it, and this is years ago, there was a sex knowledge inventory, kind of like how much you know about sex. And you just filled it out and you got your score. Well, I didn't pass. And my wife maybe just got over 50, and combined we were like early 60% combined answers. And here I am trying to figure this out. Well, I've learned a lot and I keep growing, but you got to educate yourself. As we implied already, schedule conversations. You need to have 20 to 30 minutes discussions each month to talk about, okay, what's going on? Let's keep talking about this. What do you need? What am I doing that pushes you away? We got to figure out how to make love. So let's go on this journey. And every month have a 20 to 30 minute discussion, just reviewing how you're doing. Number 7, exclusiveness reigns. That means my spouse is the only focus of my sexual interest. That's why you go back to where to draw the line in lust and how the second long look kills. If I'm always scoping people every place I go, then she doesn't feel like she's exclusive. So mental fidelity, relational exclusiveness, and sexual faithfulness are bases to trust. Your spouse wants to know and to feel that they're completely and exclusively the sole focus of your interests. Number 8, target mutuality. Both need to be satisfied regularly. Don't get frustrated with having to have, as it were, simultaneous happening every time where there's this peak of orgasm at the same moment. Don't let that paralyze you. Just have great times where both are satisfied. And sometimes it works where there's a climax together. Sexual agreement. Number 9, as part of the conversation implied above, there needs to be a discussion on things like frequency, who initiates, when they initiate, invitation, when I invite you, what's refusal protocol, when can I say no, is it okay to say no, how do we do that without being hurt, the balance between planned times of intimacy versus spontaneous times of intimacy, what turns you on, what turns you off, all these kind of things have to be talked about. Number 10, master the art of giving, especially that you're on the call. You know that having sex has been about getting. Your target is, I got to make sure I get it off or whatever. But really seek to be an other-centered lover. Number 11, as you've grown in the areas above, you can start embracing variety, but make sure you do it at your spouse's pace, only what they're ready for. But if you don't address the things above, take number 11 off. Because too often, the interest towards something is a derivative of the porn past. Now, it doesn't mean that the things that have been seen in porn can never be done in a healthy, God-honoring, love-making marriage. No, they can, provided that it is two people walking hand in hand toward that, not one person pushing to get what they want because it's what they've seen. And finally, seek God's blessing. Take your sex life to the Lord in prayer. Take your lovemaking to the Lord in prayer. After all, He created sex and He wants your sex life and marriage to be awesome. So pray together before you have a time of intimacy. And then express your gratitude following a great time of lovemaking. Likely not wise to pray in the middle, if you know what I'm saying. And finally, here's some great questions that, matter of fact, you've got the document, we've downloaded it there. Have a discussion with your spouse about this. If you don't share this, you're really not wanting to learn how to make love, because your wife will likely know a little more about lovemaking because at the end she feels loved, and that's what it needs to be. So, questions. What sexual baggage or hurts do you still need to work through to gain genuine freedom from your past hurts and mistakes before even meeting your spouse? Matter of fact, also, what healing from past sexual hurts between you in your marriage need to be addressed and released to get greater freedom to make love well? Thirdly, what needs to start happening outside the bedroom to make what happened inside the bedroom more meaningful? Fourthly, what helps you get in the mood during the day for a great time of intimacy later? Hear what your wife says. Share what you like. Also, find out what destroys the mood during the day, crippling a great time of intimacy later. What are you needing to enjoy yourself sexually? And you ask your spouse that question. Hopefully, they'll ask you the same one. And what are 5 activities that you enjoy during your times of lovemaking? Start sharing what you enjoy, what you prefer. What do you need to feel closer to me after our sexual experiences? Because we want after not to feel apart and one's crying. We need to feel the sense of I feel closer to you. Number 9, where can I show more patience, other-centered type of lovemaking rather than simply receiving? And finally, if the goal is a fully meaningful, totally mutual, passionately engaging sexual intimacy that is exclusive, focused, and pleasurable, if that's the goal, how are you doing as a couple and where do you need to go? My prayer is that guidance, this handout, would be bravely talked through in your marriage, that by God's grace, you start learning more about making love than just having sex, and you now can know and experience the difference by God's grace. Let's talk about it.